Hi, everyone, and welcome to Brian's Horror Corner. I'm your host, Brian, and welcome to this Christmas horror movie review as part of my Christmas holiday horror movie series for the month of December here. Today, we're going to be taking a look at our first Christmas themed anthology horror movie, and that is All the Creatures Were Stirring from 2018. So, yeah. All the Creatures Were Stirring is a 2018 Christmas horror anthology, of course. So let's just go ahead and get into it with the premise, the cast, and then I'll get into my thoughts and review on it. So all the creatures were stirring. As I said, it's from 2018. When an awkward date on Christmas Eve leads a couple into a strange theater, they're treated to a bizarre and frightening collection of Christmas stories, featuring a wide ensemble of characters doing their best to avoid the horrors of the holidays. From boring office parties and last minute shopping to vengeful stalkers and immortal demons, there is plenty out there to fear this holiday season. So yeah, that's kind of the setup and the premise with the wraparound. And then as far as the stories go, there's five of them. We had the first one's basically about an office party, like office party gift opening that has sort of a Saw parody to it. The second one's a parking lot demon, last minute shopping theme. The third one's sort of a modern day Scrooge kind of guy on his own. Um, the fourth one is about a vengeful reindeer, and the fifth one is about a twinkling star having to do. It's kind of a sci-fi one. This movie was directed by the team of I think the husband and wife, David Ian McKendry and Rebecca McKendry. They're either husband and wife or brother and sister. I can't remember which. Cast wise, some of the cast, it's a pretty large cast. Some of them include Constance Wu as Gabby, get Jonathan Kite as Chet, Joycelyn Donahue as Alyssa, Ashley Clements as Jenna, Mark Kelly as the guy, Graham Skipper as Max, and Matt Long as Eric, just to name a few. So, as most of you know, I'm a big fan of horror anthology movies, most of them anyway. So I was excited to see this one. I actually saw it on Shutter earlier this year. I think it actually came out a couple years ago, and it's still on Shutter, I believe. But I saw it, like, I want to say in March or April of this year. I was able to get this for fairly cheap. It was definitely less than $10. In fact, I want to say it was more around five, and that's probably about as much as I would have paid for it. Because while this is not an awful Christmas horror movie, it's definitely not my favorite anthology. It's just kind of an okay movie in my opinion. So let's just go ahead and get into it. We'll start with the things that I liked about it, the pros. I did think it was pretty unique and original in terms of how they introduced the different stories through the wraparound. I mean, normally we get somebody watching a videotape or somebody just telling stories around a campfire or something. This was kind of interesting in that this couple goes to like this sort of expressive art theater or something. It's like they're putting on like a theater show, but it's like through human art or something. I'm not exactly sure what it is, or they're acting out what's happening in these skits. Of course, we actually cut to, as the audience members of the movie, we actually cut to the actual stories, but they're actually viewing it as like body art or acted out on stage here, and then each story is introduced with a title. So I thought that was pretty original and unique. I kind of enjoyed that aspect, something different to introduce the stories. I also thought it was pretty creative. The Christmas theme stories that they used, I especially thought they were well directed, given the lower production value. Um, but just the fact that they use these different themes that everybody's familiar with is sort of a Christmas themes with a horrific element to it, like the Office White Elephant gift exchange, and the last minute shopping, and you know, I don't know about the vengeful reindeer. A lot of people can't relate to that, but they can relate to hitting a deer on the highway. Trying to avoid one of the themes is with the sort of Scrooge parody is being lonely and not wanting to, not really liking Christmas and stuff like that. Of course, being kind of a Scrooge or a miser, and then of course we have the sci-fi one, where the theme is sort of um, well, I don't know if that really has a Christmas theme. It's other than the fact that they're together for a Christmas. But I thought it was interesting the way that they use certain themes, Christmas themes that everybody can relate to come up with these horror stories. So, um, but yeah, the producers and the directors of this movie, it's clear that they're pretty talented and that they really care about horror and they understand horror. That came through in this movie, despite the fact that this is a low budget sort of B horror movie feel, and that's definitely noticeable. We'll get into that. Um, I really enjoyed the first, the second, and the last segments the most. The first one being the office Christmas gift exchange. The second one's about the parking lot demon, and then the fifth one's the twinkling star with the sci-fi aspect to it. The other two I just thought were okay, but that's one positive I'll give this. None of the shorts were really like awful. I mean, they were all at least okay to average to really being enjoyed by me. Um, so I'll give it that. And then another pro is this movie doesn't overstay its welcome, which is really important for an anthology movie. It's 80 minutes long, actually 75, I think, if you take the credits out. So it really does a good job of not overstaying its welcome. So it's not too sloggy to get through or too sloggy, I should say, to get through or anything. It kind of knows the right runtime and the right stories to tell at the right amount of time. So that was a good thing too. As far as the Christmas atmosphere goes, which I talk about with all these movies, for the most part, I thought it had good Christmas atmosphere, although I don't think the atmosphere was quite as much as some of the other movies I've reviewed. I feel like it's more Christmas theme related, as I mentioned before, as opposed to atmosphere. In the first movie you have an office gift exchange, but I mean, aside from the gifts, it's there's not a lot of atmosphere there. The second one with the parking, you're basically in the middle of a parking lot with a van and a car and a creature. I mean, he just happens to be getting some last minute gifts. Um, the one with the reindeer, obviously that's more of a theme. The Scrooge parody is more of a theme, but none of these stories really have like the Christmas atmosphere with like lights and decorations and all that stuff. Even the last one, sort of the sci-fi one, it happens to be people getting together on Christmas Eve for like a party and stuff, but you really don't see a lot yeah, there's a tree that you see, but I mean, I don't know. I just didn't think the Christmas atmosphere was all that much there. It was like I said, it's more the Christmas themes they went for with the stories here. Definitely more related to the themes and the atmosphere as far as Christmas goes with this movie. So yeah, those are kind of my pros for the movie. Getting into some cons. You got to talk about the wraparound story. I thought it was boring. Not much really happens. At first I thought there might be some promise to it, just kind of the direction I thought they were going for, but it really doesn't deliver. I mean, it's just first of all, these two characters. I understand it's supposed to be kind of an awkward friend date or whatever it's supposed to be on Christmas Eve, where these two people are. It's clear that he's more into her than she's into him for sure. But there's some awkward dialogue between them and just some. I also felt like some kind of padding. Like there were scenes in the wraparound that really didn't need to be there. Like I felt that they were just trying to get a longer runtime. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of this wraparound, other than the fact, like I said, of how they introduce the stories through human art or body art, whatever you want to call it. I thought theater art. I guess I thought that was pretty unique and interesting. But as far as the wraparound story itself, pretty unremarkable. Um, as I mentioned, the low budget aspect of the movie is pretty noticeable. None of the sets are really all that impressive, and um, neither are the effects in the movie. I mean, there are some effects that are okay. Some of the effects not so much. Especially thinking about the reindeer revenge one. Um, yeah, you can tell it's low budget. As I said, some of the effects are kind of bad. Some of the dialogue is clunky, as I mentioned, especially in the wraparound. Also, there's some kind of padded moments. Oh, I've already touched on that. Mostly, those are all pretty much in the wraparound. Um, the biggest thing too is as a horror anthology, there's nothing really scary about this movie. There's not really any suspenseful aspects. I mean, the closest they came would probably be the second one that I liked about the parking. But again, then you're in the middle of a parking lot. But it had maybe a tad of suspense, or and maybe the reindeer one. But other than that, there's nothing to be scared of, or even a lot of suspense. Not a lot of blood or gore either. There is some blood, um, but it's definitely not an overly gory movie. I don't know, guys. Overall, I just kind of feel like this movie's just kind of there. I think it definitely benefits from the fact there's just not that many Christmas horror movies, and especially Christmas horror anthology movies. I also thought it was a little deceiving, the cover here. I really like the cover. It's kind of this embossed, sticking out, and it's got like this broken bulb with this creature coming out, which absolutely has nothing to do with the movie that you see. Um, so yeah, that was a little disappointing too. It would have been really cool if they could have had something like that in the movie. But like I said, it's not awful and it's not great. It's just kind of there, which there are parts that are a little boring, but like I said, because the runtime's efficient, it doesn't drag or anything. I thought the acting was actually pretty good for the most part. Not all of it was perfect, of course. Some of it was forced, especially the office party one, and a little bit. I thought the acting in the last one was good, the sci-fi one. Um, mm, the parking lot one was good. So yeah, pretty good acting, but overall, guys, this is just an okay Christmas horror movie and an okay Christmas horror anthology movie. I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Like I said, I can watch it, but I probably wouldn't watch it more than once a year around Christmas. It's just not really scary or terribly entertaining, but it is well made. Like I said, the directors and the producers, the people that made this movie we were in good hands despite them having a low budget. It could have really been a piece of crap if you had the wrong people behind the camera, which it is not. It's just not as good as it could have been. I feel like one thing I didn't mention too is another con, not to shit on it, but it felt like some of the stories, and especially I'm talking about like the Christmas office party one with the gift exchange. The shorts just don't really come to conclusion or satisfaction. That's another thing that I didn't write down, but I'm thinking of now. Like I feel like some of the shorts, especially that one, just kind of end abruptly without much of a satisfactory ending, which was another thing that kind of left me dangling. Like they had some good, they all sort of introduced some interesting ideas and concepts, but they didn't all land at the end. And it's probably because of runtime. It's probably because of budget, I'm sure. But I wouldn't necessarily say you have to rush out and buy this unless you can get it for $5 or $7. Under 10 for sure. I wouldn't pay more than 10 for it. It might, like I said, I think it's still on Shutter. It might be. I know it was as of a month or two ago. But I would recommend checking it out if it's on Shutter or if you can get it for less than $10. It's not a bad holiday watch. It's just not one that I would go to. So 7 out of 10 for all the creatures we're stirring. Um, thanks, thanks for watching this video. Please like this video and hit the little notification bell below so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos, review videos as part of this series. And please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of my great horror content, including what I have coming up the next few months, first few months of 2022. So thank you for watching. Hope everybody's having a happy holidays season so far, but stay scared. Bye.